Yep. Ed's going to reinstall Skype. So, yep. He'll be on shortly. We got to get this on now.
We're live on the Stables Network.
And welcome to another episode of the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast on the Stables Network, the show that provides research and statistics all about the Detroit and Michigan sports teams, whether fans like it or not, and detects, exposes, and reveals actual and hidden facts and truth that the mainstream media doesn't want you to know. I'm Taylor Phillips, along with Frank Vasner. Ed Smith will be on here shortly. Follow me on Twitter, Periscope, and Instagram at DT2Phillips. Follow Ed Smith on Twitter, Periscope, and Instagram at EdSmith313. And Frank Vasner on Twitter, Periscope, and Instagram at Frank_Vasner. Follow the show, the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast, on Twitter, Periscope, and Instagram at Michigan_Truth. Also like its two Facebook pages of the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast, one created by me at Michigan Sports Truth, and the other created by the Stables Network. Check out our show's website, the MichiganSportsTruthPodcast.com. Scour the Stables Network's website, primetimewiththestablesnetwork.com, and subscribe to its YouTube channel. Also like the Stables Network on Facebook and follow it on Twitter and Periscope at Stables Network, and like it and follow it on Instagram at the Stables Network. Plus, listen to our episodes of the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast on the Stables Network on Spreaker, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, Spotify, CastBox, Deezer, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Podbean, Stitcher, Twitch, and Blog Talk Radio. Our disclaimer reads, the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast does not represent or defame any of the teams it covers, nor does it represent or compete against any of the mainstream media in the state of Michigan. It is also not for entertainment or debating purposes. It only detects, exposes, and reveals honest, actual, and hidden truth, facts, and statistics about them, because the truth is out there. So we got a lot to talk about, including how the coronavirus has affected sports, including pro and college sports, the NBA, the NHL, the NHL, MLB, and the NFL, and March Madness and other college sports, including the spring. Also, we'll talk about the University of Michigan doctor abuse scandal. Curtis Blackwell officially filing lawsuit on Mark D'Antonio. Also, the Spartans hiring a new defensive coordinator. Then we'll get to a lot of Lions signings and moves, and Matthew and Kelly Stafford news. Plus, we'll talk about some free agency stuff involving the Pistons, and we'll get to some Tigers as well. We're probably not going to talk about any Red Wings, but then after the show, we're going to, for the first time on our show, we're going to do a little segment called the TMSTP Story Vault. In it, we're going to talk about each story from the past about our Detroit sports teams and Michigan sports teams as well. Some may be from Jeff Moss of the Detroit Sports Rag, and others may be from other media outlets such as Bleacher Report, TSN, Shams Charania of an NBA insider, and others such as John Heyman, baseball analyst, Ken Rosenthal, and it could be anything. So I'll come up with a story each week. So with that being said, let's get to our top story. The coronavirus has suspended the NBA and NHL season. It has canceled spring training and postponed opening day in Major League Baseball. Also, it has even affected the NFL a little bit, including the NFL draft, but free agency has not been affected. It has been flying. It's been blowing up through the roof. So, Frank, we'll start with you as we wait for Ed here.
Well, as you mentioned, NFL free agency has been pretty much business as usual with a lot of signings and trades going on. I know we're going to hit a lot on the moves the Lions made, but I mean, I'll kind of just preview it. These guys are now in the organization. You have Jamie Collins, who was signed to a 3-year, $30 million deal. Nick Williams, a D lineman, signed 2 years, $10 million from the Bears. Chase Daniel now brought in as a backup quarterback, 3 years, $13.05 million. As they also released Devon Kennard after adding Jamie Collins, and today they brought in Danny Shelton from the Patriots and traded for Jerron Harmon, also from the Patriots, and that's led to a lot of people thinking sorry, pardon the dogs barking on dogs.
Breck, shut that dog off, please. Thank you.
Okay, sorry about that.
Yeah, mute him. Yeah, mute. Yeah, Breck, mute yourself, please. Ed has just joined in.
Okay, as I was saying.
Oh,
hold on.
Not my
Frank,
dog.
is that your dog?
Not my dog.
Sorry, Taylor. I'm dog sitting this week. Give me 1 second.
Okay, Frank, you're gonna have to mute yourself. Ed has just joined us. Ed Smith, welcome back. Four-week hiatus. Any takes on the coronavirus affecting sports, the NBA, the NFL, and stuff?
Yeah, I would have to. First and foremost, it's good to be back. It's good to hear your guys' voices again. I hope each and every one of you are doing right or doing okay, keeping yourself as safe and as informed and as sanitized as possible. It is definitely an effect that is obviously has made its ripple effect in the sports world, but it's also had its seismic effect on the outside world as well. When you consider the fact of businesses that have to be shut down, public gatherings, movie theaters, concerts, even something as simple as going to do your daily work has become more attention to detail more than ever. So it has created a psychological effect, of course, to go with the emotional effect and the physical effect of what we're all experiencing. But it is something that it's going to take some time to get used to, I have to admit, without question. And when you consider the fact that it's made its effects into the sports world, the one caveat, the one saving grace that's supposed to be our greatest escape, aside from going to the movies or so to speak, or playing a comic book or reading a comic book or playing a video game, that one escape has been taken from us, with the exception of a few notable events. Like for example, you mentioned of all the four public sports and four major pro leagues, as well as the NCAA making their alterations. Other companies have made their alterations too, but they decided to continue on with events. For example, the WWE, they are still intending on having WrestleMania. But now they're, instead of having it all, at the outdoor stadium at Tampa, Raymond James Stadium, they're decided to move it now to the Performance Center, which is luckily in nearby Orlando. And apparently, from what I've heard, from what I've gathered, they were considering possibly moving it to New York in around June in Madison Square Garden. But apparently now it will stay in Orlando, and instead they will have it as a 2-night event. So basically like a throwback to SummerSlam 1992 for any of my old pro wrestling fans out there. So what they're considering, what I read was it was going to be a Saturday night, the night before on the 4th, and then Sunday the 5th. So it would have been a 2-night event. That's what they're considering. As for the UFC, they have currently had to postpone, not cancel, but postpone 3 upcoming cards. But yet Dana White, UFC president, has remained adamant in stating that he is going to do whatever it takes to ensure that the highly anticipated match between Khabib Nurmagomedov and Tony Ferguson remains booked, remains on schedule, and goes on for April 18th. Whether it be, obviously, it's not going to be in New York. The New York State Athletic Commission could put the kibosh on that. of having it being held there in regards to their bans on mass public gatherings. And of course, the Nevada State Athletic Commission made their decision back a few days ago about postponing any events being withheld throughout the entire spring. So of course, that's going to include UFC, boxing, any type of combat sport. So with Dana White looking at a lot of options, he did mention on SportsCenter this past week that he is considering possibly, if need be, moving the fight out of the United States. And that's convenient that he will leave that nugget out, because I just read that apparently either yesterday or today, Habib's father, which is, I'm not going to even attempt to pronounce his name, but he is apparently stating that there's a good chance that the fight itself could be moved to Dubai. So that lets you know in and of itself what type of seismic ripple effect this coronavirus issue has held. Obviously, the entertainment world, the sports world, the political world, all of our worlds combined has been so affected and afflicted by this. It is a unique moment that we're living throughout, because you don't know what exactly is going to happen. You think it's going to play out a certain way, but you really don't. As much as I would love to get into a nice little political rant about this, it is not the time nor the place. The main focus and the main agenda is making sure that all Americans, because not just all Americans, but everyone around the entire world, is as safe and as human as they possibly can. They are taken care of as humanly possible, and they're well informed and kept up as much as they can, because we've seen how much of an outbreak this has become, how much of a pandemic it has become. So the last thing we need is to make it even worse than what it is now. We got to find some way to stay steady, curtail, and eventually come through on the other side. It's going to take some time, yes. But do I have faith we can get through it? Yes. Yes, I do.
Yeah. And let's get to how it affects the NBA. The NBA decided to suspend its season, and then Adam Silver just recently talked about continuing the regular season with a charity game for players that have tested negative, especially all Oklahoma City Thunder players. Probably just a scrimmage game for charity in the NBA. And then they're going to try to continue the season to see how it all rides out before it. And if it goes well, then they'll get the postseason going. And you know what?
It's worth noting, Taylor.
Yep.
Apologies for interrupting, but it's worth noting that I read a couple of headline, I guess you can say, clicky tweets or clickbait tweets, but it got my attention of apparently of one of the issues in terms of talking about the schedule. Will there be any permanent shifts, permanent changes being made as a result of this? And apparently one possibility that Commissioner Silver floated out was the chance of, in fact, come for the next season or season after, wherever it could be, possibly starting the season, the new season on Christmas Day, which is, I think, could be a very intriguing and brilliant move, because, to be honest, when you consider the fact that the NBA is starting their regular season literally in the heat of football season, and oh yeah, by the way, the climax of the World Series, all going at the same time, and also, and give or take an even year, an election year. So that's so much of an attention that's going to be taken away from the NBA spotlight, and people, casuals and hardcores, everybody knows, what to look for on Christmas Day. You're going to get some good, solid basketball action, intriguing, juicy, mouth-watering matchups. So what better way to capitalize upon that? Make basketball truly synonymous with Christmas the way football is truly synonymous with with Thanksgiving. Start the season on Christmas Day. You can have the same slot of games. You don't have to make any adjustments. You don't have too many games on that day, because families still got to get home, be home with their families, open presents, all that good stuff. So I like the proposal of starting the season on Christmas, and you branch out for that. Now, granted, this may mean extending the finals or shortening the amount of games. I think the players would prefer that. But we'll see where it goes from there. But I really have to commend Commissioner Adam Silver for the job he's handling not just this issue as best as he possibly can, but also all of the numerous incidents and noteworthy headlines and events that have taken place in the last calendar year alone. From the issue regarding the fallout with Daryl Morey and his China tweet, to the tragic passings of both David Stern and, of course, Kobe Bryant, and now with this coronavirus issue, it will be a handful for one man to take on one issue, but try tackling all of this in one, like I said, in a 12-month span is remarkable, and the way I think Commissioner Silver has handled it is as best as anyone could possibly can without stoking too many of the flames, so to speak. It's not creating too much of a kickback, negative backlash, as it would say a Roger Goodell or a Rob Manfred or, God forbid, a Gary Bettman. So it's a fact that I don't think it's tarnished Silver that much, if at all. It speaks to how well he's handled it.
Definitely. Frank, are you back?
Yeah, I am back. I do apologize to our listeners. I am currently house and dog sitting for this week and next week, so I had to deal with 3 black labs. But kind of to play off what Ed said, I mean, I do have to give a tip of my cap to Adam Silver for the way he's handled all the stuff that's gone on in the NBA this season. And as for the ideas of how they're going to finish it, I mean, I know the owners said they were probably planning on June for a resumption. I'm not really sure how a charity game would work out. I think there's a lot of logistical stuff that would have to be ironed out. I'm not saying it's a terrible idea, but I think there's a lot of red tape they'd have to get through first. And also, leading into the 2020-2021 season, likely starting on Christmas Day, I think that would be a good move too, because I think that around that time is when people are going to tune into the NBA. I mean, you don't have to load up with everybody opening on that day. I mean, just do your usual slot of 5 games. You do like one at noon on ESPN or TNT, and then you do 3 on ABC, and then you do your West Coast game that tips off at 10:30 on ESPN. Sick to doing that.
And not to mention, Frank, this is around the time of the year that really this is the perfect time for basketball to be at the center of the spotlight, because baseball is over. Football season is in the last stages. Again, it's getting ready to transition into the postseason for both pro and college. Whereas college, there's the start of the month with the conference title games. Then you'll get the hardcores that care about the bowl games and everything. But the casuals, they're just waiting for New Year's. Baseball season's done. Hockey, sorry, no one cares about that until New Year's Day with the Winter Classic. Let's just be honest. So that leaves a grand prime opportunity for the NBA to snatch that Christmas Day attention to really truly make it. I know it's got a good visual synonymous, being synonymous with that date, but to really become one with it, the way you immediately think football with Thanksgiving, I think you can do that with the NBA and basketball by starting the season on Christmas Day. Like you said, keep the same slate, same schedule, same format you got set up here. Don't change a thing about that. Just start the season, the rest of the season right after Christmas Day.
Yeah. And one more thing I was going to mention too, Ed, is since this is also an Olympic year, if we do have Olympics in Tokyo, it's highly likely we're not going to see any NBA players going over there.
Correct. So that can make drastic. There's the thing though. Considering not just the United States, the whole entire world is being affected by this. Who's to say we're even going to have an Olympics?
Yeah,
considering
China,
the fact that
exactly.
the timetable for all this high level threat, you might as well call it high threat level, to succeed and get under that curve, to reduce that curve. People are talking, say this can go into June, July, even August. That's Olympics time. So what are you going to do about the Olympics? Are you going to postpone the Olympics to say September, October?
Wow, long time.
Yeah. I mean, this whole thing is really going to cause a lot of logistical things to be worked out. I mean, I heard somebody say it today. Once this all gets said and done with, there's going to be a lot of work to do and not a lot of time to do it.
No. I mean,
No.
so you got to find a way to cram all, to not just cram in as much as you can for this year, but to also to figure out the long-term effects of what is done for not just next year, but for years to come. How it affects schedule, how you plan around certain events such as this, what to prepare for the next time, because has been virtually unprecedented. We have never seen the sports world get shut down like this, period. 9/11 did it for like a brief hot minute. Same thing with Pearl Harbor and like say, I guess what, Kennedy's assassination. That's the few things that popped in my mind like that. Everything else, full steam ahead, full steam ahead, full steam ahead. Now it's, wow, what do we do next?
Yeah, it's like a whole new world record in life in a negative way, in such a negative way, and that's what we're already preparing for, unfortunately. But that's why we gotta stay at home, wash our hands, and not meet groups of people until it's all long gone, as Ernie Harwell would say. Longtime Hall of Fame Tigers play-by-play announcer. So, yeah, I want to get to the how the NHL is going to resolve their schedule with the playoff picture. I read an article from the Scores, John Mattis and Nick Ferris. There could be only one way that one of four. The season can be continued in only one of four ways. Depending on when the NHL decides it's resuming play, the league could opt to go one of these directions. Number one, pick up where the schedule left off, play the full remaining slate of games, and push the start and end of the playoffs back. Number two, play an abbreviated number of remaining regular season games, then begin the playoffs closer to the original start date. Number three, cancel the rest of the regular season and hold an impromptu wild card tournament to settle tight playoff races. Or number four, go the easier route and cancel the rest of the regular season and award playoff positions based on the current standings.
I am in more agreement with the latter two options, i.e., what is it? Shorten the regular season to the point to where, right, cancel the rest of the regular season, create a little wild card mini tournament, or just cancel the rest of the season and assign seeds, because it's a given. It's give or take. Who's going to be the tank teams, the teams in the lottery for draft spots. So that's why I could see myself agreeing with the last option, but with the teams that still want to fight, for the chance for a playoff spot. Like say for you never know when you could get another 2010 Flyers, where the Philadelphia Flyers, they made the playoffs on the very last day of the season in a friggin' tiebreaker shootout of all things, and they wound up getting all the way to Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Finals in overtime. So you never know what the wild card could produce. So I'm actually, if you were asking me to pick which one of these favorites overall I would go with option 3. To suspend the rest of the regular season, get your draft teams, your draft lotto teams in the lottery, and then start your little wild card mini tournament to determine the rest of your playoff spots.
Well, those lottery teams include the Red Wings, who are by far dead last in the entire NHL season. I think at least personally, in my opinion, the lottery should be wiped out, and the Red Wings should keep that number one pick. That would be the easiest way. And I think the lottery would be almost cheating, or in other words, a screw job, if the Red Wings were to be picked at a different number.
Well, we're dead last, so you usually would think, you have the higher possibility. And plus, I haven't heard or seen any regulations, on tanking from the NHL compared to the NBA. So there's a good chance, no matter what, that the Red Wings are going to get, at worst, number 2, or God forbid, number 3, but no worse than that. Like they're a lock for the top 3.
Yeah.
Well,
Frank?
What I was about to say is, I've kind of been thinking about the whole scrap the regular season and put a wild card deal in. And I'll be honest with you guys, the more I think about it, the more I think it would actually be a good move, because I look at how many games each team has left. You got the top 3 teams in the Atlantic Division, they've played 70 games, so they got 12 more remaining. But the top 3 in the Metro got 13 more. So I mean, how many are you going to squeeze in 1 week where you're not having to play 3 and 3 or a ton of back-to-backs? Everything's going to be so condensed, kind of like it was in the 2013 lockout year. And of course, as for a potential wild card tournament, I think right now, if you take it the way it is, you can basically make the cutoff within either 10, pretty much within 10 points of the last wild card spot, which that last team in the East would be the Montreal Canadiens. So you basically take the top 12 from the East and the top 12 from the West, the last team in the West being the Blackhawks. And then you just basically match them up, and then your top teams you give a bye to, and then you just let see how it goes from there. Do you do a single sudden death elimination game like in baseball, or do you do a best of 3 to get in? It's gonna be interesting.
I like best of 3. I like best of 3 because I think with hockey, one game playoff scenarios, I don't know, that's better suited for determining the final spot. Whereas if you have a gaggle of teams trying to fight for like a first 4 in situation, then yeah, with the way hockey goes, I would much prefer a best of 3 scenario.
I could definitely go along with that.
Yeah, me too.
That makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah, best of 3. That would seem even more interesting than just one game, just one wild card game.
And especially since the NHL has a lot more competitive balance in it.
Yes,
definitely. Yeah.
Plus, the whole designated set time limits, compared to baseball where innings could go forever.
Yeah. You're absolutely right.
Definitely. Yes. So, absolutely right. It's that best of 3. What we just touched on in the NHL, the Stanley Cup playoffs, the wild card tournament would be more balanced than in Major League Baseball's game 163, which was first invented in 2000, first done in 2009 between the Tigers and the Twins at the old Metrodome. The Tigers choked, and the Twins went on to win that one like in 11 innings, 6-5.
Yeah.
Yeah, I try to repress memories of that. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Dave Dombrowski. Doofus.
Thank you, Gerald Laird.
Yeah, Gerald Laird. Yeah. And speaking of baseball,
thank you, Miguel Cabrera, for beating up your wife and chatting with the other team on the weekend of a crucial series. Oh. Thank you, Jim Lewis, for putting out the lineups that you put up there.
Oh yeah, and making dumbass decisions. One after another every year before your retirement.
God, don't get me started of the wasted opportunities of post 2006. Do not get me started, else we'll be here all night.
2 hours, perhaps.
Oh God, you thought urinating tree was brutal. You haven't seen
Guys, we have to let Ed do this probably at another later date.
Oh yeah, I have horror stories for you.
Yeah, save those for next week. Yeah, suggest them to us over the weekend, please.
Yeah, I'll formulate and stew on that one.
Yes, please. In fact, after this said and done, write down a list of stories. That's gonna be in our TMS TV story vault, which is coming up later at the end of this episode. Yeah. Oh yeah. Fun. Here we come, folks. Oh yeah. So speaking of baseball, let's see here. The MLB postponed their season, and they're going to consider. Rob Manfred's going to consider pushing it to like mid-May or June. That's all we've heard. Ed? You want to talk about that?
I really haven't heard too much of that. But the way things are going, Manfred may have no choice but to push this further beyond that. You know, there's a good chance we could see. Now, here's the thing: if I'm Manfred, assuming we start the season in say May or June, there's no way they're going to do a full 162, are they?
Absolutely not.
They can't. They absolutely cannot. You have the World Series in what? Christmas, New Year's?
Oh, that's like freezing cold temperatures.
No, you cannot do that. So that they got to come up with a plan for that one as well. Abbreviate season for sure.
Change up the opening day plans.
Well, guys, I actually do have a suggestion, although it might be controversial. They would have to completely scrap interleague play. That's probably about 22 games that are gone right there. That cuts it down to 140.
You know what? I got no problem with that.
They're going to have to do a lot of double headers as well.
True.
Double headers. Yeah, that could do the math. Yeah, a lot of double headers. Yeah, scrap interleague play and do more double headers. Squeeze double headers. Three game series and 4 game series.
And what I could do, or you could do, right, just have, squeeze in some 4 game, right, just have it all in 2 days and get the players rest in between. So, for one day you do a doubleheader here, then a single game there, or, two back-to-backs of double-doubles. Granted, that is literally 4 full-length baseball games in 2 days. But, that's why you just space them out in between. Like, you do this set, then you get 2-3 days off. Yeah. That's all. And you cut down on interleague play. And, spring training was over with anyway. Was getting ready to be over with anyway, so you don't have to worry about that. And, you still got the All-Star break. Even you want to see what you can do with that. Maybe put it to later in the month, like, say, late July, if not August.
August, the beginning of August.
Yeah, if not late August, to coincide right in time with, oh snap, All-Star break's over, and now it's time for the home stretch for real, because what? Playoffs are going to start. You got to start the playoffs in and around the fall and end it before it gets too cold here. So you got to factor all that into consideration.
Well, let me try to be fair. I wouldn't push it till late August. That would be a little bit too late. I think probably just the beginning of August, or probably mid-August, but I think I would go no further than the beginning of August, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and I got no problem with the start of August either. Right.
Frank?
I'd have to agree with that. All-Star break around the first part of August. Because really in the sporting world, nothing really happens around August anyway, so kind of give people a taste of something a little bit different.
Yeah. Yeah,
and to me, I would slash about 60 games off the schedule right there, because how many friggin' times are you going to see the same divisional matchups over and over and over again? It gets tedious. Limit those, which creates more, fan anticipation to wanting to see it for the next time. Because you don't get burnout, you don't get, what's the word I'm looking for? It'll come to me later, but I'm sure I'm going to forget about it now.
Bored.
But yeah, just too much overexposure, So I think that will cut down on that as well. If you slash at least a good 60 games, but I doubt Manfred's going to do that. But what can you do? What do you do? This is uncharted waters here. You've seen how Adam Silver's had to juggle this. Roger Goodell's probably he is probably the luckiest SOB right now, considering the fact that there was murmurs of this potentially breaking out, right as the NFL season was going down. Then, of course, it became well known as the Super Bowl came about, and then, bam, right as the Super Bowl ended, getting into the offseason, this hit. So the NFL should count their lucky amongst lucky stars that this did not. Oh, my God. Could you have imagined if you had to postpone or cancel the Super Bowl?
Oh, holy hell. That would be a disaster.
Okay, forget about WrestleMania or Tony versus Khabib. You cancel the Super Bowl. Oh, my God.
Oh, that was like... The Super Bowl is like a friggin' holiday, for God's sake. That's what people say.
It's as close to a federal holiday as we're going to get for sports fans.
Yes. Oh man, you can't cancel that. You can't even postpone that. I don't think the coronavirus is going to last that long. We just have to do our part.
Yeah,
That's
that's
Yes.
all.
part of my
And
closing.
also, I gotta
My
say
closing
this, if
statement.
I can go into a brief tangent, I do believe some media is hyping this up for fear mongering and to get ratings and clicks. I can't help but have an inescapable feeling of, okay, you're playing on people's fears as a scare tactic. Yes, they need to be informed. Yes, they need to be aware also, but I think you're also hyping this up way more than it should be. And that's
And to
all I
kind
will say about that.
and if I may piggyback off of what Ed said, my father and I have had many a conversation about this, and we both say the same thing. People just need to use common sense. Wash
Thank
your
you.
hands. Use hand
Thank
sanitizer.
you.
When you cough, cover your mouth. Do stuff that you
Wash
would
your
talk-
clothes.
Yes, exactly.
When you sneeze, cover your damn mouth.
Yeah,
On
and
a-
use a Kleenex or a handkerchief. Look, we were taught all this stuff when we were kids, guys.
Take showers.
Yeah, we just
And brush
gotta.
your teeth.
Yeah, and if you are feeling sick, stay home from work.
Thank you.
A few weeks ago, I was sick with the flu. I didn't like having to stay home from work and staying home from basketball games. I didn't like it at all. I hated it. But you know what? I had to do it because it was for my own good.
Yeah. Another recommendation that I have in mind: Listerine. Down some Listerine. It may have some alcohol in it. Although I don't drink, but it does cure virus.
Use it. Well, don't drink Listerine. That's the wrong thing to do. Just use it. Use it as mouthwash to rinse your mouth out.
Yeah, that's
Right.
we haven't reached that stage yet, thankfully.
Well, I'm not going to drink too. Well, I'm not going to drink too much. No. Just
Don't
a
do
little
it
bit.
at all. That's
Yeah,
that-
let's turn that down all the way to 0. Let's go from 100 to 0 now.
no.
Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. But yeah, I'll be okay. I've done it before. I've survived.
All right, then. You have experience. Good to know.
Yes. So let's get to this Curtis Blackwell story before we get to Lions free agency.
Absolutely.
Curtis Blackwell. Yes, Ed, you and I have touched on this before, but now it's official. Curtis Blackwell has now officially filed his lawsuit on former Michigan State Spartans head football coach Mark D'Antonio. According to Barrett Sally of CBS Sports, the racial discrimination claim centers around an investigation by Michigan State into how the football program which included Blackwell, handled sexual assault allegations against three football players in 2017, Corley King and Vance. Thus, we remember. He's claiming that the school immediately started an investigation into the incident, yet delayed an investigation into molestation allegations in a former staffer, Dr. Larry Nassar. Blackwell was not charged with a crime, but was briefly accused by campus police of obstructing an investigation. Let me turn the water here. The lawsuit also claims that D'Antonio forced Blackwell to record at least one opponent's practice, according to ESPN. The suit claims that Blackwell was directed by D'Antonio on condition of his employment to violate the civil and or criminal laws of another state by making or directing the creation of an audio or video recording of another person without consent and with the intent to invade their privacy. The lawsuit does not specify which team or teams had practices illegally recorded. Blackwell claims that his objection to this and requirements by the staff to provide improper benefits to the families of prospects and illegally contact players at other schools in an attempt to get them to transfer to Michigan State led to his dismissal following the 2016 season. No dollar figure listed in the lawsuit filed by Blackwell. The former staffer is, however, seeking more than $5 million in the wrongful termination and wrongful arrest lawsuit in federal court. D'Antonio abruptly resigned on February 4th of this year, during which time athletic director Bill Beekman denied Blackwell's claims. That's the end of that article. So, Ed, like I pointed out, it's official. Ed, dig Mark Dantonio's grave.
Well, here's the thing. The fact that Dantonio, we've already gone over it, the fact that he made such an abrupt, and I mean abrupt, retirement, the way he left over a simple tweet was alone mind-boggling, and was the first obvious red flag of, okay, something must be amiss here, because there was news reports of the Blackwell story having his issues with the university still being displayed over there, and the fact that he had a lawsuit filed and was getting ready to file another one. So the fact that you combine this with that aspect, and you see the details in here, you start to paint a little bit of a picture of what might have forced Dantonio's hand in a way to where he did not want this to be a black cloud over the season and over the players. Like, he's already been through that before with the ESPN stuff. He did not want to go through that again. So this is why, in his view, I'm trying to give a little bit of devil's advocate from Dantonio's point of view. This is his way of trying to distance all that from the players that don't deserve it, and the coaches and the team that don't deserve it. Let him take the heat from that aspect. But still, it's just awfully suspicious if you're going to be so adamant about your innocence in the past, and now all of a sudden, cut tail and run, you pull a Ron Meyer, you pull a Pete Carroll in the midst of this that's going on. Now, look, a few of these claims, I'm going to admit, sound off a little fishy. The racial discrimination thing, I get it, but I don't know. I can think of Mark Dantonio as many things. Bigot does not come to mind for one of those. I think that's more so Curtis Blackwell's own personal feeling or indignation, or maybe the people around him tried to feel that way. And they led him all along to believe that. But that's just again, my perspective. I'm not Curtis Blackwell. I didn't go through what he went through, thankfully. Hopefully I never have to. So I can't say for certain, but that just came off a little weird for me. By the way, to make a quick mention of the whole racial discrimination, it was dealing with the fallout of the whole sexual scandal crisis that was going on at Michigan State. And by the way, don't you think the University of Michigan is about glad we have a shutdown right about now, as close to a shutdown as you can get, because that sure is taking some steam off of what they're going through right now. Oh my goodness. We'll get to that another day, but I digress. Now we move on to, I think, something that deserves at least a little bit more attention to, although I don't think it's going to amount to much of anything. The allegations or the accusations of tape practices. Now, that's Belichick territory. That is Patriots territory. That is, one of those no-nos that you shouldn't do, territory, even if you try to get cute territory. We just came off of the reels, and we're dealing with the after effects of the Astros scandal before this whole coronavirus thing hit. So to know that Dantonio, or to think of the possibility of Dantonio was using this as well, gives, if you want to be a cynic and say, oh, it paints a tainted picture or over some of those defensive squads that he had. Whereas if you're me, you would think, yeah, if that's the case, if he had all these tape practices, then why in the heck were his offenses not that much better? You would think that's the point of taping, of doing this to begin with, to gain advantage, to get better, not get worse. So, I think that's another one that's switching. But besides, you have to ask other assistant coaches that had to have known that an element of that was going on. There's no way Dantonio was going to hide something like that from, say, a Pat Narduzzi or a Dave Warner or a Mark Tressel. There's no way Dantonio would have been puppet master behind all that one and kept everyone in the dark. No way. Well, at least someone knowing. So I'm not too feeling friendly on that. Now, this last one could have a little bit of legs, and could give a better explanation to why D'Antonio retired when he did. When you mention the fact that he requested, the article says requested. I'm going to go full old school. I'm going to say he ordered him. D'Antonio may have ordered Blackwell to violate, those rules and guidelines, by the usual, offering benefits to players' families. We've seen that before. I doubt we're going to stop seeing it now. And also this one, tampering with players that have appeared to be already enrolled or getting ready to commit to another school. That could have more credence, could have, say, more damaging effect because it's more believable of the three scenarios. And if that has any evidence, which I think Curtis Blackwell and his team confidently believes they do, it may not be looking so good for our Morky boy.
Right. Mark D'Antonio. Yeah. And speaking of Michigan, we have to touch on another story from WXYZ7 in Detroit's Simon Shayket on the doctor review scandal. This was developing like a couple weeks ago. Former wrestling team members at U of M alleged sexual assault at the hands of Dr. Robert Anderson, already deceased, and tell WXYZ they're coming forward to tell the truth and inspire more potential victims. So just to pass that along. So Ed, Frank.
Yeah, and also it is worth noting he was also not just that, he was also the doctor for the football team in the 70s and 80s. Yes, during Bo Schembechler's days. Yes, during Jim Harbaugh's days when he was a player at the school. So, if this has legs, and I certainly it has more legs now than what it did when this first originally broke, then a lot of people's got some explaining to do. Period. And I mentioned this before when we were in the thick of it with the MSU stuff. I said, if this has gone down at Michigan, then you need to expect equal amount of criticism. It is only fair. It is only right. I don't want to play this dumb little rivalry game. I mentioned before, if John Beilein and Jim Harbaugh had contemplated or participated in some kind of cover-up that the way ESPN alleged and accused MSU of doing, yeah, I will want answers and accountability taken and responsibility and figure out what the heck went down here. So, assuming any of this is true, which, you don't want to ever doubt, kudos to the victims and the survivors for stepping forward. Shame on the university for keeping this in the dark the way they had. But again, this can't surprise you too much when, the whole Brendan Gibbons thing happened, wink, wink. So, it just shows that, we're all the same. Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan State, Baylor, you name it. Everyone's dirty in this. There's no clean, pure school. And if you think that way, you may be in Utah, and even then, they're still dirty out there. So, yeah. Everyone's dirty, everyone's tainted, and that's fine. I wish more schools would be more accepting and acknowledging of the fact and say, hey, listen, this is what we are. This is the system that we're in right now. And we're just taking advantage of as much as we possibly can until someone comes in and cleans it up or reforms it. And that's that. I would have more respect for teams that way and programs that way that become more honest and self-aware of what the heck's going on.
Yeah. Frank, any follow-up?
Well, Ed took a lot of words right out of my mouth. I mean, the way the stuff that's gone on at U of M with Dr. Anderson. I mean, props to victims for coming forward and bringing this to light instead of keeping it in the dark, covered up. But you know what? There's a lot of stuff that has to be done. I mean, I know Anderson's been deceased for several years, but I hope these victims do get their closure. I mean, it's not going to undo the horrible things that he did, but at least people are coming forward, bringing this to light, say, you know what? This guy did some very awful things. He was a piece of garbage, and he will always be a piece of garbage to me, and he should be to any U of M fan. Yeah, and I know, Ed, you would definitely agree with me on that statement. And also, even as a Michigan State fan, I will not use it. I'm not going to use this as rivalry fodder. Nobody should.
Right. And innocent, real, actual innocent human beings were scarred and affected and in some cases destroyed because of this. This should not be used for any fodder to play roast session with a rival fan base. Stop it. if you want to say, oh, but you talk about Penn State all the time. First of all, we talk about Penn State because A, they legit covered it up, and B, you had sycophantic sheep of fans that refused to believe that the beloved Joe Pa wasn't a demigod. Okay, so that's why we make fun of Penn State. Let's get that clear.
And I've said the same thing about the stuff that went on at Baylor when you had the Texas Attorney General getting
For
involved
God's
with the
sake.
cover up and campus police intimidating witnesses.
Okay, that's like Bill Clemens having himself knee deep in the SMU scandal, and he was the friggin' governor of Texas.
Wow.
That too.
Yeah.
But anyways, I think we need to keep it rolling here, guys. I think
We
got
do,
10
but
minutes.
Yeah,
man,
10 minutes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we got Lions free agents free agent signings to grade, and then we'll go into the vault real quickly. Let's see. The Lions, the Spartans hire Scotty Hazelton as defensive coordinator. What's your grade, Ed?
I really, to be honest, I don't know much about about this new hire. I think he has Mel Tucker's trust. I think he might have worked with him in the previous staff. I don't know. I'm just being honest. So I really can't give a fair grade. So I'll say C plus because that's just my, I call that the median average grade where you don't want to go above, but you don't want to go below. You're just right there. So because that's how much I know about this one per se.
Frank, what's your grade on Hazelton, the football team under Mel Tucker?
Well, Ed, there's a reason why I'm here, and I'll actually kind of help fill you in a little bit. Hazelton was previously the defensive coordinator at Kansas State, and his defenses were actually pretty good considering that the Big 12 is an offensive league. And
yes,
yeah, they did pretty well. And I think that they go out bringing somebody who I don't believe he previously worked with Tucker. But I mean, he's a new name. He comes from outside. He's had good defenses before. I believe before he was at Kansas State, he was at North Dakota State when they were winning national championships at the FCS level. So I'm actually I'm going to go ahead and give this an A- higher. Because I think you could say that this is probably the best assistant that Tucker has brought in at any position, bar none. So, I mean, I think it's
Frank, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Ed, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, when you explain it like that, and knowing for a fact that the bane of MSU's existence for the past few years has not been their defense, it's been their offense. So the old saying goes, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I think whether it be the Board of Trustees or Mel Tucker, whoever it was, they decided, listen, let's keep it simple. Don't mess with the basics. We'll figure out the offense. Let's ride this defense as much as we can, strengthen it, build upon it, use that as our best weapon. Accentuate the positives and hide the negatives, as Paul Heyman would say.
Yeah,
couldn't have said it any better myself.
All right, so we're gonna bottle up all those Lions signings and moves here. By the way, Matthew Stafford and his wife Kelly are already having a fourth kid. The Lions release offensive tackle, right tackle Rick Wagner, who signed a 2-year, $11 million deal with the Chicago Bears. They re-signed long snapper Don Muhlbach. They signed offensive lineman Hala Pulavati Vital from the Philadelphia Eagles to a 5-year.
Hala Vaitai
to a 5-year, $50 million contract. Offensive lineman Graham Glasgow signs a 4-year, $44 million deal with the Denver Broncos. The Lions signed linebacker Jamie Collins from the Patriots to a 3-year, $30 million deal with $18 million guaranteed from Ian Rappaport. Defensive tackle Nick Williams from the Chicago Bears to a 2-year, $10 million contract. Backup Chase Daniel from the Chicago Bears to a 3-year, $13.05 million contract as a backup. That includes a voidable clause, which means no Tua, possibly. They released linebacker Devin Kennard, who signs a 3-year, $20 million deal with the Arizona Cardinals. They signed defensive tackle Danny Shelton from the Pats to a 2-year, $8 million deal. 61 tackles, 3 sacks, 1 forced fumble in 16 games, 14 starts included. And they trade like 4 picks to the New England Patriots for cornerback Duron Harmon, and signed cornerback Desmond Trufant from the Atlanta Falcons to a 2-year, $21 million deal with $14 million guaranteed. So all in all, how would you rate Bob Quinn's free agency stuff? Ed, we'll start with you.
All right, let's run down quick by quick because we don't have much time. Vaitai, I think, it should be noted he has experience playing both sides of the line, both left and right. He started at left tackle for the Eagles when they won the Super Bowl in 2017. As of late, though, his production has fallen off, particularly in terms of pass protection. So if you're Matthew Stafford, I think you and Darrell Bevell have got to drill more on quick releases, getting the ball in your hands faster. It is worth noting that he has a higher grade at right tackle by Pro Football Talk compared to left tackle. And, with the release of Rick Wagner, he's going to probably be filling up that spot. Danny Shelton, I see him as an upgrade from Snacks Harrison and a guy you can plug in next to the Sean Han and Ashawn Robinson in the interior. Duron Hammond, worth noting, since 2017, he's had 10 interceptions. That's tied for the 5th most of any safety in the league in that span. Just last year alone, he had 2 picks, 5 pass deflections, a passer rating allowed of 33.8. That's pretty darn good if you ask me in terms of coverage, how much success passes have against him. He's a good veteran for the younger players to look at, to learn under, and he can still go. That's good. And to me, that fills a big hole where you traded Quandre Diggs. Chase Daniel, simple. It solves your backup quarterback problem, shows you have commitment to Matthew Stafford, and gives a hint that, yeah, most definitely you ain't getting Tua. So I will look to see what they're going to do with that. Are they going to trade down too far, trade down enough? To me, it just leads to them, they're going to do what they're going to do with that. They'll either take a player, Okudah or Simmons at 3, or they'll trade down and take the guy that is available between the 2 or best player available defensively, I would hope. For the linebackers, I think it was questionable in cutting a captain in Kennard, who is, number one, a captain, and is coming off back-to-back 7-sack seasons. But with Jamie Collins, seeing what he provides, he can help with some pass rush issues, something that the Lions have had drastic problems with. Really, to be honest, since Sue left, when, if you want to be fair. So they hadn't had a chance to fill that void. And it really does point to that Detroit Patriots makeup. And we know we make fun of it. It's a meme, but my God, it's becoming reality. Now, as for Desmond Trufant, that tells me, by the way, first and foremost, he's got a Pro Football Focus grade of at least 70 in 6 of his past 7 seasons in the league. Former Pro Bowler of the Atlanta Falcons. I'm not sure if it was him or someone else, but still, he was part of that defense that at least had the 21-3 lead before giving it up. And compared to Darius Slay, he's faster. He's more agile. He has a higher vertical. So as much as I would love to keep both guys in, more than likely you brought in Trufant because you're getting ready to deal Slay. You brought in Jamie Collins because you knew you were going to get rid of Kennard. And to me, that tells me you were going to pick Isaiah Simmons or Okudah with your 3rd or possibly 5th pick, or say 6th or 8th. If you decide to trade down, find the best possible offer, because now you basically said to the rest of the league, we are not taking 2 or 3. You got to get the best offer you can get at number 3. So for that overall so far, I would give Bob Quinn a B+. If he gets a good haul for that number 3 pick, I'll bump it up even further. Yeah.
Frank, we're going to have to postpone the ball until next week because we fill up so much time. But what's your grade on that before we exit here? No time for closing statement here.
Well, here the signings I liked. I love the Trufant signing. I liked getting Danny Shelton in the trade for Duron Harmon because I think those guys are upgrades. And also, don't overlook the Nick Williams signing too. I mean, that fills some depth on the defensive line, especially now that Ashawn Robinson is no longer here with the Lions. So,
my apologies.
Yeah, I did see. That's the story that did pop up not that long ago. I mean, the Jamie Collins, I'm not really that sold on because it seems like he was only successful when he was in New England. Because when he went after he left, he went to Cleveland and he wasn't that great, so he got brought back on like a $1 million a year deal. And plus, he's kind of getting a lot of miles on his tires. Chase Daniel, I mean, just affirms their commitment to Matthew Stafford. Not going to take Tua. I'm gonna, for now, I'd say the songs I like kind of outweigh the ones I didn't like. For now,
Yeah.
I'm going to give this a B minus. But if they do trade that third pick down, acquire assets, it can go up.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So Frank, what's your grade?
B minus.
All right, B
And
minus.
mine is B plus. Mine
I'm
is
gonna
B
go with
plus.
I'm going to go with a mid-range B. So,
There you go.
Yeah, no time for the vault. We apologize for our inconvenience. No time for the closing statement either. But we'll get to the vault next week. For Ed and Frank, I'm Taylor. We'll talk again next week. Thanks for downloading and sharing. Remember, the truth is out there. TTFN, ta-ta for now. Bon appetit. Hit them with a high, and we rest our case.
Stay safe. Stay clean, y'all.
Thanks.
Exactly. Wash your hands.